If you run a clinic-based business, I'm going to show you our framework for profitably running ads to get new patients. Most clinics we speak to have tried running ads before. Okay, they've hired a lead generation agency, they've brought someone on in-house, they've tried running the ads themselves before, and the most common complaint we hear from this is that their ads weren't profitable or they were just spending too much. We believe this is because they don't have a framework for running ads profitably. These are the benchmark frameworks we build and advise our partners on. So just go ahead, get your own metrics, apply this to your own clinic, and use these frameworks to set your benchmark so you can advise your team or agency on this. Framework number 1 for creating your profitability benchmarks is the 30-day 3x rule. This one is the most important one if cash flow could be a constraint to your business. If you're opening up more locations, you're hiring more staff, we need to make sure your cash flow won't be a constraint to the business. So this is why this 30-day rule is the best one to go for. The goal here is to make 3x of what a patient brings us in revenue in the first 30 days. Here's an example. If a patient typically visits 3 times in the first 30 days at €80 per session, that's €240 in revenue. We believe your maximum you should spend to get this patient is €80. That's 1/3 of what they bring you in revenue in the first 30 days. Bear in mind, if you've good retention systems, which you should, this patient will continue to come back 60 days, 90 days, and even a few years later. So this isn't what you're going to get out of them over the lifetime of their journey. This is just what you get in the first 30 days. The reason why this is important is because if you're trying to reinvest and you're trying to make payroll, the first 30 days is the key point when it comes to cash flow. So if you're really expanding your clinic, okay, and you're opening up locations, the 30-day rule is the most important one. So go ahead, jump into your clinic software, check what the average patient spends with you in the first 30 days. Divide that by 3 and advise your team or your lead generation agency that we can only afford to spend this to get a patient. And you should be well in the green when it comes to profitability and cash flow. The second framework we use when it comes to setting our profitability benchmarks when acquiring patients is the 1:10 CAC to LTV rule. CAC stands for customer acquisition cost and LTV stands for lifetime value. And what this ratio represents is how much it costs us to acquire a customer and what they bring us in revenue over the lifespan of their journey with your business. We want to keep this ratio at a maximum of 1:10. So we want to spend €1 to acquire the patient and have them bring us €10 back in lifetime revenue. Here's an example. If the average patient spends €1,000 with your clinic over the lifetime of their journey, we know we can profitably spend €100 to get this patient. The reason why this isn't the best benchmark to use is because we don't make this money back instantly. You'll have to front the cash to get this patient and they'll bring it back to you over the lifetime of their journey. So this is only good if cash flow is not an issue. If you have huge cash reserves and you can afford to front the money, this second benchmark shouldn't be an issue for the business then. It actually allows you to spend a little bit more to get a patient than the first situation. So it's up to yourselves. Whatever suits your clinic the best, you can go for. But it's either the 30-day rule or it's the 1:10 CAC to LTV ratio. Just recapping this a little bit, okay? So number 1 is the 30-day 3x rule. This is the best one to use if cash flow is going to be a constraint to the business. If you don't have big cash reserves, yet you're trying to scale, you're trying to open up more locations, you're trying to hire employees, this one is the one you have to go for. This is because the patient's going to basically pay for themselves in the first 30 days. We spend €80 to get them, and they're bringing us €240 in the first 30 days. We can use that money to again reinvest into meta ads, and we don't have to use our cash reserves to reinvest for marketing. The second situation is the ideal one to go for if you do have big cash reserves. If you aren't constrained by cash flow, then go for the second one because we can actually use a little bit more of the data over the lifetime of their journey to spend more to get a patient. And this also allows us to spend a little bit more than our competitors because most competitors are looking at the short term, not the long term. Here's the next step for your clinic. Step number 1 is to work out your own numbers. Jump into your clinic software. Check what the average patient spends within the first 30 days. Check what they spend over the lifetime of their journey and set your own profitability benchmarks. Step number 2 is to set the cap on what you can afford to spend to get a patient. And once you have this number, tell your ads manager or your agency that this is your red line for acquiring patients, and do not let them go beyond it. A little tip I like to give our partners when we're consulting is, if you're working with an agency or you're working with a lead generation company, go conservative on this number. Agencies typically tend to overspend and overpredict the return they can get. So if your real profitability benchmark is €80, tell them €60, so that if they go a little bit over, you can still be in the green. The final slide here is talking through what to do if you aren't hitting your benchmarks. Okay, there's a few things we can do here, both on the ad side and secondly on the retention side. So if you aren't at your benchmark, okay, if your benchmark's €100 and you're spending €150 to get a patient, number one is we can create more ads. This may well be an ad issue or an offer issue. So go ahead, try more offers, try more ads, and see if we can bring down the cost per lead and the cost per patient. That's probably step number one. Step number two is to use a profitable money model. I'm recording this video about 1 month after Alex Hormozi's book launch. I think if you haven't gone through his modules or his book, go through it and build an offer package that gets the most cash out of each patient in the first 30 days ethically. And then number three is you can just focus on the clinic's retention. Focus on your rebooking. Focus on your reactivation and focus on referral systems to uplift the amount of cash you're getting from a patient in the first 30 days. These are a few things you can do if you're not at the benchmark. I definitely would start off with the ads, see if you can get the cost per patient down. Second, I'd restructure the money model, see if you can get more money out of the patient within the first 30 days. And number three, I'd focus on the basic core internal systems, retention, reactivation, and referrals, and see if you can just get more money out of your patients over the lifetime of their journey with your business. Wrapping this all up, running ads profitably isn't about cheap leads. It's about knowing your metrics and your benchmarks for acquiring patients. If you don't know your customer acquisition cost, if you don't know your APV or LTV, you're flying blind when it comes to acquiring patients. So your next step is to understand your metrics, set your benchmarks, and just tell the ad manager this is the maximum we want to spend. A quick tip as well, if you're doing referral campaigns, you can use this benchmark to get patients through referrals as well. So knowing this number should be the core of your acquisition. Finally, what do we do? If you've gotten value from this video and you're not interested to learn what we do, click off this video now. That's no problem. I will be explaining our business and what we actually do for clinics. What we do is we install our RFM growth system into your clinic so you can scale with confidence and without chaos. The system looks like this. It's a 3-step process, and we actually build and manage this for your clinic. Step one is acquisition. Okay, we'll calculate how much we can profitably spend to acquire a patient, and then we'll run targeted campaigns to get them in at this benchmark. Number two is we implement a conversion system that turns these inquiries into paying patients without your receptionist and without payroll hours and without manually chasing leads. So once we've gotten the lead, we've converted the lead into a paying patient, we'll implement our retention and APV growth systems. We'll help you rebook these patients. We'll help you reactivate your database, and we'll help you generate referrals predictably. The way we look at it is you focus on your operations, you focus on delivering care to your patients, and we'll focus on installing and running the growth system. If you want to learn how this can be installed into your clinic, or you just want to learn about the individual systems we use for acquisition, conversion, or retention, book in with me. My calendar link will be pinned at the top of the description. You can find a time slot that suits you, and we'll chat about your business, and we'll chat about how we can potentially help you. Chat soon.